Thank you, everybody, for sticking around today. I know it's getting late in the day. When we talk about self-managing Couchbase clusters, that sounds like nirvana for us from Couchbase, right? We want to make it easy for you, but I know half of you would lose your jobs if it was also self-managing. So maybe we'll learn some secret tips here and never invite you back again if you share too many secrets about how to make it too easy.
Okay.
But Shenglin, thanks for coming, and look forward to it. We're going to have time at the end for questions, but you can invite them to ask questions throughout if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be done here in about 40 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will talk about building self-managed Couchbase cluster in eBay Cloud. First, self-introduction. I'm working as eBay database engineer since 2006. At that time, I'm working as Oracle and MySQL DB, and I started working as NoSQL since 2014. And since from 2016, I started to building this self-managed NoSQL ecosystem in eBay Cloud platform. Right now, my working half in the DB and half in the developer coding. So in eBay, we have the different database service platform, and for different purpose. We're using the RDBMS for a while. We're using Oracle and MySQL, and besides that, we're also using the NoSQL. We're using the Couchbase, Mongo, Cassandra, and also MemCached. For the platform, we're building eBay own private cloud platform, and we're also building eBay the Docker and the Kubernetes platform. So right now for Couchbase, we have over 1,000 clusters and a few thousands of nodes. We have 3 data centers. We set up using XDCR. The major version is either 3.16 and also the 4.62. Most of our cluster is running on the VM. So the question is that how can we manage so many nodes and so many clusters, right? We have limited DB resource. This is what I'm doing since from last year. So we're building the two platforms. One, we call it the DBLM. This is Database Lifecycle Manager. It's UI and also command line, also the API. We can manage the database lifecycle, including the provision cluster, add node, replace node, decommission, something work like that. We also build some dashboard to show the metric, to show the capacity dashboard. Besides the DBLM platform, it was using by DB to provision cluster and to manage and maintain the Couchbase cluster. We're also building the out failure detection remediation platform. We also right now it can fix about 15 different kind of errors for Couchbase cluster. We also build the same thing for other NoSQL, Mongo, and also MySQL. We're also using this tool to do some routine task. For example, we do the upgrade. We upgrade from the Couchbase from 3.1 to 3.16 to 4.62. We're using this to do it automatically. So there is no DB work for that. At the same time, we keep adding new features. For example, we found that there is more errors, right? We try to see if we can find the right way to automate it. Let's go through how the Couchbase self-remediation architecture. On the left side, this is the monitor engine. So the monitor daemon process engine, it will scan the whole Couchbase cluster metadata. It will scan out the node, and based on the checking list, it will check a different kind of error. The most common error is that, for example, the host is down, the host is crashed, and the database is down, or the cluster is pending rebalance, or the node is pending recovery, some kind of error like that. After the daemon process detects this error, and then they put this error information into our error status database. So we build a UI monitor page to monitor the error, so we can do the real-time monitor what kind of error right now of our cluster. On the right side is our remediation daemon process. It scans from the error status DB and then find the error and take the auto remediation engine, and it will call the auto remediation engine to do some remediation actions. For example, you can do the replace, or you can do the rebalance, something like that. If there is something the error can't be handled by the script automatically, then it will send the alert out, and maybe at this time you will take something manually. So this is our error checklist. You must ask, what kind of error we should check for Couchbase, right? We check from this different perspective, and we check from the cluster level, node level, also database bucket level, and also from host level. For cluster level, we check the cluster is pending rebalance or not. We're using the Couchbase API, and then check if there is a cluster is failing with rebalance, then it will get this alert. And we're also using the different group for Couchbase cluster, and which means that for one cluster, we put multiple group, and each group in different fault domain. If there is some network failure, and only one group will be impacted. And also in cluster level, we also check the out failover quota. This parameter is control how many time the out failover by Couchbase. By default, this value is 0. And if there is host failure and trigger the Couchbase out failover, and then the quota will be set to 1. At this time, and you can't failover the second node until you run the rebalance, and then the quota will be reset back to the 0. And there is some API you can call to reset the quota. And in the node level, we will check about the error. For example, the host is down, the Couchbase is down. The Couchbase is pending recovery, or it's pending warm up. When the Couchbase is hosted down, when you start up a host, and also the Couchbase will do the warm up first. And after warm up, it will ask you, do you need delta recovery or do the full recovery? So we need to do the recovery first. And also in the host level, we check the memory usage. If there run low of free memory, we will take some remediation. For example, we will bounce node if needed. And also we check the space usage in the node level. And we try to clean up some junk file, some code files, and if needed. The other thing we check is the write commit failure. This error means that the application try to write a Couchbase, but it's got some field to write to the disk. In this case, maybe something error is in the disk. So we find this error, and maybe we need to replace this node. So there is no direct API for this kind of error. You must scan Couchbase error log, and then do some filter, and then you can find out this error. So in bucket level, and which also means in database level, and we check the XDCR mutation. If there is high XDCR mutation, which means that there is some lagging or there is replication issue with XDCR, and we need to take some action to fix it. And also, we check the item count between the different clusters. And this can guarantee the two cluster or multiple cluster is in sync. And sometimes there is some post XDCR, and then we need to take action to fix this post XDCR issue. Besides this check, we also do some the other important metric to monitor. For example, we monitor the cache missing ratio. We monitor the active Docker resident, and we monitor the disk write queue. Disk write queue is high, means that maybe the cluster can't handle the write, and you must to see what kind of action to take. And we also check the Docker fragmentation and do some, by default, and Couchbase will do the auto compaction automatically, but sometimes you must trigger the compaction manually. And we also checking some the metric backend fetch wait time. So this is all the thing we are checking right now, and also we try to add more metric to check, and then remediation. So when we start to do the remediation, the first thing that we must to have the priority to fix the error. For example, the host down error is always a higher priority than the pending rebalance. When there is a host down, right? First, the rebalance you must need to run the rebalance. So, but before we do the rebalance, maybe we need to think about we need to replace a new node, and after we finish the node replacement, and next we can kick off the rebalance. So if we find there are more than one error in the cluster, we will think about which one have high priority. We should do which one first. The second example, right, is a node is not in the cluster. Sometimes the node is kick off the cluster, and in this scenario, we need to add this node back to our cluster and then run the rebalance. And after we fix this, and the unbalanced group error can be fixed automatically. So we don't need to take anything for that. And for the XDCR mutation error, we always have the low priority than other error. So we always fix other error first, and then at the last, maybe we can consider to fix this one. And besides the priority, we also think about how to do the remediation in parallel and concurrency. For example, for different cluster, you can kick off the remediation at the same time. And for the same cluster, for some error, you can kick off the in parallel. Take one example, if in one cluster there is more than one host state down, and you want to replace both hosts, and you can kick off in parallel. But after you finish replace one node, and you should wait and fix the second node replacement, and then you can kick one final rebalance. And we also set some exclusive list and some threshold. Take the XDCR mutation, for example, and in some cluster, we know there is some high mutation. This is acceptable, so we can set a higher threshold. When we do the auto remediation, the first thing we always think about is we should check first if this error has already been fixed automatically. In this case, maybe we don't need to do the auto remediation. We just do the recover. There are also some errors, and the auto remediation may be failed at the first time, but we add some retry. For example, rebalance. We always retry 3 times before we give up. And For each rebalance field, we always sleep maybe 5 minutes, and then we try the next rebalance. And also we add some exception handle for different error. Next, I will talk about one example. When you try to fix the host down, what you should consider. First, you should check is this host is needed anymore or not. Sometimes this host is not in cluster. Maybe it's not needed. In this case, we just remove this host from my data table. And next, sometimes the host is down. But after, for example, 5 minutes, the host is back up. In this case, maybe you don't need to replace the node, right? You just check the host is, what's the status of this node. Maybe it's pending the warm up. There is some API, you can check the host is finished warm up or not. Or you can, after warm up, the node will do the recover. You can choose the delta recover or full recover. And by default, we always go to the delta recover first. If delta recover is success, then we can to check if the cluster need a rebalance or not. And if needed, you can kick off the rebalance. But if the host is not come up, right now, you need to replace it. First thing, you need to get another machine, new machine from our cloud platform. And when you get the new machine, you check confirm the new machine have same flavor, same attribution, same group, or same service. The service means that for Couchbase node, it has different service. It's maybe key values node, maybe it's index node or query node. You must figure out which service you want to replace. And after you provision the new host, and you set up the Couchbase, and then you can start to add this new node in the cluster, and then remove the dead node. And then kick off the rebalance. This rebalance is swap rebalance, and this is just transfer data for this single node. So it can save a lot of resource. If after you replace node, if you check this node is index node, in this time you must to think about, you need to rebuild this index on this node. This is an example. When you fix the host down issue, there are a lot of things you need to consider. This is, we start kick off this automation system since from 2016. And right now, every month, it can fix about a few hundred of errors. And in this graph, you can see in September, there may be more error because we have, at that time, and we do the auto upgrade, which means that our system can kick off the OS upgrade automatically. That's why there is more. And also, we keep improve the repetition process to keep it the high success rate. Next, I will talk about the Couchbase learning experience. So first thing, always remember to upgrade your cluster to the latest stable version, and not go to the latest version, and always consider to go to stable version. For Couchbase cluster, it's not always viewable for the write. That's why the alt failover is triggered. And so in this case, you want to achieve the write HA, and you must to think about do it in application side. But since from Couchbase 5.0, and the smart client introduces the multiple cluster awareness client SDK, it can choose the failover between the different clients. And for the cross data center update conflict resolution, and the default one is revision-based conflict resolution, which means that which doc is modified with most, it will 1. Since from the version 4. and it introduced the timestamp-based conflict resolution. So when you design the cross-data center application, you should consider which conflict resolution you should use. And we found another problem is that the metadata memory overhead. And when you design the Couchbase key value and the key, you should decide which key we should use to do the query. But Couchbase metadata is also partial of the key. And there is always 56 bytes for each key. And if you have a small key, that will be a lot of overhead. And we also see some memory leak issue when we run the Couchbase. And the Couchbase since from the 4, and it replaced the memory allocator from TCL memory allocator with JEM allocator memory. We did see some memory leak issue less after upgrade to the version 4.62. And there is, when the node is reboot or you restart Couchbase, it's always slow to warm up, especially when there is a lot of key. And so we always remove the access lock to speed up the warm up. When we do the Couchbase upgrade, and for some big cluster, we consider to build a new cluster and using XDCR to sync up data, do the cutover, instead of do the replace node one by one. Because the replace is very expensive. But when you design a big cluster, always think about scan out instead of scan up. In some time, you must consider to do the application level sharding. And when you design, you always think about using different group and put a different group in the different fault domain. And even when you're using the VM, and also confirm using the different hypervisor for the host in the same group. Next, I will talk about the rebellion issue we hate. And always using the swap rebalance. And we found some bug when there is index and query is cause the rebalance always failure. You can check this bug number. And so when you do the rebalance, if there is index or query, maybe you can think about disable them first, and then do the rebalance. After finish rebalance, you can enable again. But which means cause the data may be out of the index data or the query data may be out of sync. For the rebalance, and especially in the 3 version, it fails a lot. So always try to retry after sleep a few minutes. And if you check the alert log, it maybe sometimes it will tell you why it failure. For example, the most one we see is that not all the node is ready yet. In this case, and our script will check why the node is, why the specific node is not ready. Maybe we just do the bounce node and then retry rebalance. Also, in the version 3.1 version, always to try to increase the no-IO working thread. And you can monitor the no-IO working thread using the CP status dispatcher. It will check what's the no-IO, how many IO thread is using right now and what it's doing. And you can also check in the no-IO thread setting using the CP status configure. And when you change the no-IO working thread, you must restart all the nodes. So since from the Couchbase 4.5, and they changed the default, the no-IO thread to 8. Next, I will talk about the XDCR issue. And we often see some node in the cluster have high XDCR mutation. In this case, you need to check which node have the, you should check the XECR mutation in the node level instead of the cluster level. And we see two bugs in the version 3.16. And one is that XECR go to the infinity loop when the node join into cluster. This is fixed in 3.16. The other issue we see a lot is that more than one replication instance may be restarted when the replication is resumed. Sometimes when you see the XECR mutation, maybe it's not a real mutation, and we see a few issues in our cluster. And this time we check the item count instead of check only the XECR mutation. But when you check the item count, it can capture the operation of delete and insert. But for the update, it can't be captured. So when you fix the XDCR mutation issue, first we always try to stop the XDCR and then restart it to see if it can fix or not. And also, sometimes if we see there is a big mismatch of item count, there is no XDCR mutation, and we need to rebuild XDCR. And also, we also see some issue, and it fixed. We restart the cluster manager, and sometimes also you need to restart node. So all this we try to cover in our auto remediation daemon process. The other important one, you must to guarantee all the nodes on the source and target cluster have the same version. That's all we built in the last year about Couchbase auto remediation, and this is what we plan to do and in next year. Right now, all our platform is on the VM. We plan to move to Docker, and also we plan to do the database as service. And right now, all the auto remediation is triggered by DBA, but we plan if we build some kind of debug, and this can be triggered by the application team. That's all I want to talk. So let me know if you have any question.
We got lots of time for questions, so you can dig deep and just holler.
Thanks. Just on the back end that you mentioned, the APIs or the automations that you're defining, what's the implementation, and is it Python? Is it something else that provides the UI versus not UI, but the CLI versus an option to trigger the automation?
So the question is that how the auto remediation platform provisions some UI or the command line for the remediation, right?
Yes, and on top the implementation itself, like is it Python? What is the interface on top of the interfaces that is provided by Couchbase?
Yeah, we're building, we write this platform using the Python, and also we're using Django to do the some UI and API. And by default, so we only have one UI platform UI to monitor the current remediation process, and all the processes is running as a daemon process in background. We don't we export some API to do the remediation or to do some fix, but by default, DBA don't need to do anything because the daemon process will try to do it. Hopefully this can answer your question.
Another question? I think everyone will want some of these slides too, because there's a lot of detail there. Mm-hmm. We'll be circulating the slides as follow-up emails to all attendees. So there'll be a video recording and then slide share download, I think, that you can do, something like that. Any other questions?
What is your plan in terms of moving from 3.16 to the later version?
So right now we still have two major versions. One, both is very stable in our platform. It's 3.16 and 4.62. And so in this year, and our repetition script, we also think about the upgrade as a process of repetition. So if we set some flag, it will trigger and it's to upgrade to the target version. And right now, we in this year we finish most of them to the 4.62. Yeah, but since the Couchbase the next release 5.0, and I think we will not we will not do the upgrade immediately, and we will do until maybe we can build some new cluster in the new version, and after we confirm the 5.0 is stable, and we start kick off the upgrade, and just we set the upgrade version to 5.0. The repetition process will kick off in background, do it automatically. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, Shenglin. So we have till quarter after, till our next speaker, next session talking about cloud deployments on AWS. So please come back.